I thought watching cameras at an empty asylum would be the easiest job in the world. The ad in the paper was almost a joke. Night security officer needed for Old Hill State Asylum. Must be comfortable with solitude. Excellent pay. And excellent pay was the understatement of the century. They were offering a rate that would clear my debts in 3 months. All I had to do was sit in a dusty office from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and make sure no one broke in. Who'd want to break into a place like this anyway? For the first few nights, it was exactly that. The easiest job in the world. Just me, the low hum of 24 monitors, and a whole lot of static. The silence was the loudest thing in there. A heavy, pressing weight that felt older than the peeling paint and the faint smell of bleach and sorrow that never quite left. I'd walk my rounds, my footsteps echoing like gunshots in the empty halls, seeing nothing but dust dancing in my flashlight beam. It was boring. It was lonely. It was perfect. But then the calls started coming from the abandoned wing. And then I found the note the last guard left for me. Let's be honest, I was desperate. The construction gig I'd had for 5 years vanished overnight. The bills were piling up, and my landlord had started using a tone of voice that made it clear his patience was measured in days, not weeks. So when I saw the ad for Old Hill, it felt like a lifeline. A creepy, probably asbestos-filled lifeline, but a lifeline nonetheless. My interview was with a man named Walter, the head of security. He was a skeletal-looking guy who looked like he'd been on the job since the place was still taking patients. His handshake was dry and brittle, like old paper. He didn't ask about my experience, didn't run a background check. He just looked me up and down, a flicker of something I couldn't read in his tired eyes, and handed me a heavy ring of keys. "The job's yours if you want it," he rasped, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "Shift starts at 10. Your only duty is to be here. Watch the monitors, walk the perimeter twice. That's it. Easy money." He walked me to the security office, a cramped room dominated by the wall of silent black and white monitors. Taped to the corner of the desk was a single yellowed sheet of paper, folded and worn thin. Walter tapped it with a bony finger. "Read the rules," he whispered. "Read them twice, follow them, don't get brave, and don't try to understand them. Just do what they say." Before I could ask what he meant, he turned and walked away, his shoulders hunched like he was carrying something heavy. He didn't look back. For the first few hours, I ignored the paper. Rules? For an empty building? I figured it was just some hazing ritual for the new guy. The first patrol was eerie, but not in a spooky way. It was the sheer emptiness that got to you. This place, Old Hill State Asylum, wasn't just abandoned. It felt erased. It operated for 80 years, closing for good in 1935. In that time, tens of thousands of souls passed through its gates. Standing in a deserted ward, with rows of rusted bed frames lined up like skeletal soldiers, I could almost feel the echoes of their lives. Some old asylums, like the one on Asylum Hill in Mississippi, had thousands of patients buried in unmarked graves right there on the grounds. The thought sent a chill through me that had nothing to do with the cold. Back in the office, my eyes kept drifting to that crumpled piece of paper. Curiosity, or maybe just boredom, finally won. I unfolded it. It was typed out on what looked like an ancient typewriter. The ink faded. At the top, it read, "Special Night Protocols. Patient number 086. Patient? The last one had been transferred to the new state hospital at Whitfield almost a century ago. This had to be a joke. Still, I read on. There were 6 rules. The first 2 were just absurd. Do not look at patient number 086 under any circumstances. If patient number 086 is seen outside his room, lock all doors and do not engage. I folded the paper and tossed it on the desk. A prank. A dumb prank to spook the new guy. Patient number 086. Right. I was the only living person for miles. I leaned back, trying to ignore the knot in my gut. The hum of the monitors was my only company. For now. It was around 1 a.m. when the night started to go sideways. I was fighting off sleep when I saw it on the monitor for Ward C. A flicker, a distortion in the grainy image for just a split second, way at the end of the hall. It was so fast I figured my tired eyes were playing tricks on me. I fumbled to rewind the recording and played it back frame by frame. There was nothing, just the empty, decaying hallway. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Faulty wiring. Old cameras. That's all. But the idea was stuck in my head now. Every creak of the old building, every gust of wind now sounded like a footstep. I decided to start my second patrol early to clear my head. The air in the corridors seemed colder this time. Heavier. As I passed the entrance to the old hydrotherapy wing, I heard it. A sound so faint I almost missed it. A whisper. It was indistinct, like a radio playing in another room, but it was there. I froze, straining my ears. It came again, a soft hiss slithering out of the darkness. My heart started hammering against my ribs. I remembered what Walter said. Don't get brave. I backed away slowly, my flashlight beam trembling, and finished my patrol, walking a lot faster this time. Back in the office, the whisper was still in my head. That's when my eyes fell on the list again. I snatched it up. Patient number 086 will mimic voices of staff or deceased. Ignore and report via radio only. My blood ran cold. Mimic voices. It wasn't the wind. The rule was specific. It knew. I grabbed the radio, my throat suddenly dry. This is Night Watch, I stammered, feeling like an idiot. Reporting. An auditory anomaly in the hydrotherapy wing. Per protocol. The only response was static. I felt foolish, but a sliver of sharp, cold fear had lodged itself in my chest. I forced my attention back to the monitors, my gaze jumping from one empty screen to the next. Then, on the camera for the West Wing, I saw him. A figure, standing at the far end of the corridor, half in shadow. It was tall and thin, wearing what looked like an old patient gown. It was perfectly still. My heart hammered. Was this it? Was this patient number 086? My mind raced back to the rules. Do not look at patient number 086. Was I looking? I was looking at a monitor. Did that count? Then the second rule screamed in my head. If patient number 086 is seen outside his room, lock all doors and do not engage. He was definitely outside a room. I didn't hesitate. I slammed the buttons on the console, engaging the magnetic locks for the West Wing. A series of heavy clunks echoed faintly through the building. I had trapped it in there. Or I had trapped myself out here. I wasn't sure which was better. I kept my eyes glued to the screen, but the figure was gone. It had just vanished between frames. The hallway was empty again. But this time, I knew I wasn't imagining it. For the next hour, I didn't move from my chair. I just sat there, a statue carved from fear, watching the monitors. I felt my sanity fraying. Is this what the job does to you? I've heard real-life guards talk about how the isolation in places like this can wear you down, make you see things. I wanted to believe that's all this was. But that list of rules felt too real. It was proof I wasn't just losing my mind. Just as I was starting to calm down, something new appeared. Camera 12, North Wing, 2nd floor. Another figure shuffled down the hallway. This one was different, shorter, bulkier. As it shambled into a patch of dim moonlight from a grimy window, I saw its face, or the lack of one. Where its eyes should have been were just dark, hollow sockets. A primal terror seized me, turning my blood to ice water. This was just wrong, a violation of everything natural. My shaking hands scrambled for the crumpled paper. I found the 4th rule. If you see a patient with no eyes, it is not patient number 086. Run. The word swam before my eyes. It is not patient number 086. A cold dread, far worse than the first shock, washed over me. If this thing wasn't the main threat, what in God's name was? And why was the only advice to run? Run where? I was locked in this concrete tomb with it. I was frozen, just watching the eyeless thing on the monitor turn its head slowly, as if scanning the hall before it disappeared into a patient room. I have to ask, if this is getting under your skin, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. You don't want to be alone out here, trust me. Let me know in the comments which rule you'd have broken by now, because I was about to break another one. Just then, the internal phone on the desk, a relic I was sure hadn't worked in 50 years, let out a shrill ring. I jumped so hard my chair screeched on the floor. It rang again. On the 3rd ring, I snatched it up. Hello? Hello? The voice was calm, rational, and perfectly human. I'm terribly sorry to bother you, it said in a polite, gentle tone. But I was wondering if I might trouble you for a glass of water. It's patient number 086. I'm in my room. I'm just awfully thirsty. My mind short-circuited. It was a trap. This thing was smart. It mimicked voices. It set traps. I remembered stories about how manipulative patients could try to befriend staff to get what they wanted. But this wasn't a patient. This was something else pretending to be one. My eyes found the list. Patient number 086 requires no food or water. Any feeding requests are traps. A trap. The word echoed in the silent office. It wanted me to open the doors. It wanted me to come looking. I slammed the phone down so hard the plastic cracked. The ringing stopped. But the silence that followed was somehow worse. It was a hungry, listening silence. It knew I was here. And it was getting impatient. The final hours of the shift were a special kind of hell. Time slowed to a crawl, each tick of the clock a hammer blow against my sanity. I didn't dare leave the office. My world had shrunk to this single room and the 24 screens showing me nothing but my own impending doom. I was huddled in the chair, clutching a thermos of cold coffee, just praying for dawn. I had stopped looking for anomalies. Now I was just staring, my eyes burning, hoping to see nothing at all. That's when I made the final fatal mistake. My gaze drifted to the last monitor, camera 24. It was the one positioned in the security office itself, mounted high in the corner, pointing down at me. And I saw myself. I saw the back of my own head, my shoulders slumped, my hands wrapped around the thermos. It was a perfect, real-time image of me. But I wasn't alone. Standing directly behind my chair on the screen was a figure, a perfect copy of me. My clothes, my hair, my posture. Everything was identical, except for the face. The doppelganger on the screen slowly leaned forward, and its head turned just enough for me to see its expression in the grainy monitor. It was smiling. A wide, predatory, impossibly human smile. My heart stopped. It was behind me. Right now. The air in the room grew impossibly cold. I could feel a presence at my back, a weight of pure malevolence that made the hair on my neck stand on end. I didn't dare turn around. I couldn't scream. My hand, moving with a will of its own, reached for that damned piece of paper one last time. I smoothed it out on the desk, my eyes locked on the monitor, on the smiling copy of me standing right behind me. And I read the last rule. If you see yourself on the cameras, leave immediately. Patient number 086 is behind you. Leave immediately. The words were a death sentence. I hadn't left. I had frozen. It was too late. I had looked at patient number 086 after all. A cold hand rested gently on my shoulder. A voice, the same calm, polite voice from the phone, whispered directly in my ear, a puff of frigid air against my skin. Your shift is over. My turn. The sun is rising now. The day guard is walking in. He looks tired but not surprised. He sees me sitting here, in the chair, staring blankly at the monitors. I look up as he enters, and I feel the muscles in my face pull into a slight, unnatural smile. He looks at my eyes, and I see a flicker of pity. I reach into my pocket and pull out a crumpled, yellowed piece of paper. My voice, when I speak, doesn't feel quite like my own. Don't worry, I say, the tone calm and gentle. I thought watching cameras at an empty asylum would be the easiest job in the world. I hold the paper out to him. Just follow the rules. The lights flicker, the doors lock, and the night begins again. If you made it to the end, you're braver than I was. Subscribe for more stories from the places no one else will go, and remember, always check who's standing behind you.